Hey guys, this video is going to be about Thomas Jefferson being a black man. It's not going to be that long of a video, just going to show you, this is all you really need to know that Thomas Jefferson was a black man, or a Negro, right? So first, if you Google Thomas Jefferson, right, plus presidents, they're going to show Thomas Jefferson, 1743 to 1826, show a white man, right? Now, if you didn't already know, history is actually the opposite. You type in white cargo book, you learn there's a book called White Slavery, the forgotten history of Britain's white slaves in America. White slavery books. It's a bunch of books on white slavery. All right. And then, the Benjamin Franklin quote. Benjamin Franklin wrote about swarthy populations in his 1751 essay, Observations Concerning the Increase of Mankind. He was expressing xenophobic concerns that non-English immigrants were swarthy, right? Remember, the quote is, in Europe, the Spaniards, Italians, French, Russians, and Swedes are generally what we call a swarthy complexion, as are the Germans also. Basically, he was talking about the entire Europe, right? The entire Europe. And whites were the minority, right? So if you type swarthy, it says person's skin complexion, skin tone, or face, right? It's going to show this tan person. However, if I type swarthy animal, now it shows swarthy, real swarthy. And then, right, so now you got swarthy, right? So yeah, that's what swarthy is. So now let's get to the other proof. Now you can go look at some channel. They're talking about was Thomas Jefferson biracial, Thomas Jefferson's descendants. Thomas Jefferson, third president of the United States, was a black man, right? They're doing all this stuff of books, right? And I'm going to go ahead and just debunk it fast. It's really easy. So Thomas Jefferson, right? I can't play these videos, but he has some descendants. You have a white descendant and a black descendant. Black and white, right? Now, we don't know if this person right here on the left is being paid to cover him, but, so, but yeah, I'm going to show you to prove that he was black. It's easy. Thomas Jefferson. Oh, my bad. Did Thomas Jefferson have slaves? Yes. Thomas Jefferson enslaved more than 600 people over the course of his lifetime, including men, women, and children. At any given time, he held around 200 enslaved people at his Monticello plantation and surrounding farms. Right? So, and then, did Thomas Jefferson's family own slaves? Right? His father, right? Did Thomas Jefferson's descendants own slaves? Yes, Thomas Jefferson had thousands of living descendants. Thousands! Including many of, what does it say? Including, let's read this. Yes, Thomas Jefferson had thousands of descendants, including many of African descent. If I'm reading this correctly, saying that some of his black, right? Black children had slaves, right? So, yeah, forget about all this descendants of Jefferson's white children, right? Forget about some were 3/4 black. Forget about that stuff, right? Here's what you need to focus on. Watch this. We're going to type 18 free Negro slave owners. And I'm going to keep reading till the day it gets removed, right? Free Negro owners of slaves in the United States in 1830, together with absentee ownership of slaves in the United States in 1830, by Carter Goodwin Woodson, or Carter G. Woodson, age 75. Laura Spelman, Rockefeller Memorial. Okay, right? So, this publication date, 924. Publisher, Washington, D.C., the Associated Study of Negro Life and History. Contributor, University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. Have this memorized, because when you go into the base, you're going to have to memorize this. Almost pressed the wrong button. You're going to have this university memorized to prove your point. Because they're going to ask what university it was. And you have to say, the associated names, right? So look, here comes the money game. Here comes the money. The lottery ticket. Jackpot. Here we go. It's so easy. Just type Jefferson, right? Just type Jefferson. You scroll down, it's a bunch of Jeffersons. And look. Boom. Thomas Jefferson. You zoom in, right? Tennessee. Thomas Jefferson. 4 slaves. 5 in total. Age 24-36. Name, Cuffy Woodson. Where was Thomas Jefferson from? Virginia, right? Now, if I say this might, not turn different, but did Thomas Jefferson have slave descendants in, Did Thomas Jefferson have family that moved to Tennessee? Yes. Thomas Jefferson had family members who moved to Tennessee. The most prominent connections, right? See? Tennessee. And look, we found a slave owner named Thomas Jefferson, right? I don't care if, how do you know that's a different Thomas Jefferson? Listen, the slave owners were rich. They came from Europe. They came from royalty. It doesn't matter if it's a different one. They all come from the same, most likely, lineage, right? Look at this. Justin Jefferson, right? Famous football player, the best wide receiver in the NFL right now. You don't think, oh my gosh. You don't think Justin Jefferson is related to Thomas Jefferson? Let's type his parents. That's his dad and his mom. That's swarthy, right? Not super swarthy, but you get what I'm saying. You don't think he got some DNA related to Thomas Jefferson? Right. He's from Louisiana. Did Thomas Jefferson have descendants that moved to Louisiana? Oh my gosh. Did Thomas Jefferson have descendants that moved to Louisiana? Right? Thomas Madison Jefferson, buried in Louisiana. Look, you have some Jeffersons that died in Louisiana. It could be a possibility. He's related. Not just Thomas Jefferson, George Jefferson. It ain't just him. He could be related too. Right? So, but yeah, you have a Negro, Thomas Jefferson. So that should let you know of what this third president of the United States actually looked like, and the person that helped sign the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson was exceptionally tall for his era, standing at 6'2.5". Thomas Jefferson was tall, 6'2.5". Now, let's do Justin Jefferson. How tall is Justin Jefferson? 6'1". And they're talking about with shoes off. He's 6'1" without shoes. Right? So I mean he's 6'2". What they say Jefferson was 6'2". You don't think he's related? There's a Negro slave owner, Thomas Jefferson, in Tennessee. Right, that's his dad. His dad looked like 5'11", 6 foot. His brother 6'5", looks 6'5", right? You see? You don't think they're related to this Negro Thomas Jefferson, who's related to this Thomas Jefferson, right? So yeah, I just showed you where Thomas Jefferson descendants are today, right? I'm not saying they could be freedmen, but I'm just saying we don't, Negro slave owner Jefferson, right? But yeah, I just proved Thomas Jefferson was a Negro. I'm out.